So in this video, we're going to revisit a friend of mine who I helped with some soil testing and some basic advice in the second half of last year, 2021. So we're just going to check in because in the coming weeks and months, it's likely that we'll be doing a little bit more with him. So it's quite good just to see where he's at the moment. So topic for today's video is a grower update. Now, it was around October, November 2021 that I did a short video on my friend Doug, who is growing up in Scotland. So let's just re-familiarise ourselves with what Doug is doing.
So this is our patch at the moment. As you can see, the water damage is significant, but it'll drain away, it'll be fine. So I thought I'd talk you through kind of what happened, what's been happening and what's happened this year. So when we first started, this area here was simply potatoes and carrots dug, just normal, dug in, ridged up potatoes, traditional kind of thing. And yeah, I started to look into the no-dig method, essentially because I was getting an awful lot of weeds, and I have a lot of creeping buttercup is the really sort of pernicious weed here. So I was pretty fed up of the crop getting overtaken, and it really breaks up the soil. Creeping buttercup, it's quite chunky little weed, so when you pull it out, you're kind of just causing more disturbance, etc., etc. So yeah, been doing the no dig thing for about 18 months now. This came out of potatoes, and what I did was I created this row here, which was all potatoes this year. They've all been pulled and harvested. But where we had potatoes before, we've had parsnips, carrots, lettuce, beetroot. This was beans here, broad beans, sorry about the focus. And that's now empty. It's just been covered with compost, and I've popped in some broccolis. They'll hopefully overwinter and then come good in the spring. Again, this area was potatoes as well, but this year it's been radish, turnip and leeks. So it had a crop of early potatoes, April to end of June. So we're limited by getting them in after the snow, and we had quite late snow this year. So that was early potatoes, pulled them out quickly, and then we had turnips, leeks, radishes have done quite well, and a line of peas where the hazel sticks are. So the peas I've just pulled this week. This is just a little raised bed that I put, if I have extra module sown plants, I just pop them in there, and then if any of the stuff fails in the garden, I've got a sort of little supply. I could transplant them again if needs be very quickly, or just leave them to grow, thin them out, see how they go. It's just a bit of a kind of add-on really. The bags here are actually well rotted leaf mold that I've got from my auntie and uncle. They have a sort of really forested garden and loads of leaves, so they've been making leaf mold compost. So that's going to go on after every crop gets finishes off, before the snow arrives again. That'll get spread on. So once the potatoes are pulled out of here, I have a line of chicory, pak choi, broccoli, leeks, kale, and then there's a big empty bit in the middle where the water damage has occurred. There's about 250 garlics planted in there, and then in the distance there we have broad beans, next year's broad beans, where you can see the dibber, and to the left of that is fennel. So I'm kind of hoping they'll overwinter again, and then that's my crop for the spring. In the background's the polytunnel. That's kind of a new construction this year, so there's not an awful lot in there. It's half a garden shed, half a chicken sanctuary at the moment, and again have some broccoli, pak choi, radish, garlic, and the end of some peas going in there, and tomatoes as well. And the white and brown boarding there, that's my sort of 1.5 by 1.5 meter compost bin. So fill the white one to the top, leave it for a while, turn it into the brown one, and fill the white one again, so on and so forth. And behind that's kind of a bay for collecting grass cuttings and wood chip and stuff, which is you know, just in the kind of ongoing maintenance of the garden, just somewhere to dump it, and then I can sort it out, add it to the compost heap as I wish. And to the right here is this new setup for the chickens again. So if we just pan to the left, what we do is, this is where the chickens were. Look at all the rain, really muddy. So that will be a vegetable patch for next year. So I'll put cardboard on top of that mud, top it off with some form of growing medium, and then plant straight into it in the spring probably, and then so on and so forth. This next area will be probably 2020, mid 2022 to 2023, and essentially expand the garden, the vegetable garden, sort of twofold. So that's where we're at just now. Like I say, sorry for the flood damage, but we've had 3 days of real lashing rain, so it's kind of nice just to see a bit of bright sky. And yeah, hope this video does you well.
Now, the key thing to note here is that Doug is going down the no-dig route. So he's limited in terms of the certain mechanics of what he can and can't do with the soil for the particular style that he's decided to grow in. And also, the results of the soil tests showed that whilst the organic matter levels in the soil were pretty good, his soil wasn't as active in all the right places that it could be, in particular soil fungi. So let's have a check-in now with Doug and see where he's at this point in time.
Hi there, Simon, it's Doug here. Just calling you from the garden. It's very early spring here, northeast of Scotland. Yeah, I thought I might just let you know how I've been getting on. Quick transition from a traditional dug garden to a no-dig garden, and your soil sample helped me out because you were able to tell me that that we had quite a lot of organic matter in our soil, but not a lot of fungal activity. So I've been able to make a few adaptations in the garden regarding that. So I'm looking forward to sampling again, maybe later this year, just to see the effect of that. So primarily the addition of material, compost material that might have emanated from things like leaf mold from more wooded gardens. So I have a neighbour with a wooded garden who's lots and lots of leaf mold. So one of the additions made this year, excuse the drainage works, one of the additions I've made to the newer beds is yeah, leaf mold. So it's much more like a forest floor, and I'm hoping that will increase the fungal life in my soils to balance out that kind of nitrogen element that the organic matter was bringing. But yeah, new plantings just gone in, some still covered up. And then obviously the overwintered stuff like garlic, broccoli, some kale, etc., and some onions just coming through. New potatoes just gone in, and a lot of composting works going on at the moment. But yeah, if you can excuse the slight building site element of the garden, where we're dealing with like a surface water issue from the neighbouring field. Yeah, there's that. It's also pushed me into a lot more of the thought around the homemade compost element, and so just recently emptied this bay of compost. We'll actually go and have a quick look at it. This will obviously be added into our soil life, so this will probably form part of a future test from your lab, which is again, you know, really super helpful. So just take a big lump of this. So loads of organic matter, but I've balanced it with lots of carbon rich material as well, like sawdust, animal bedding, etc., and some straw. So that's just going to sit under this cover and mature for another few months before it gets used. And so yeah, so looking really just using your data that you gave us to balance that out a little bit. If we hadn't done the test, we wouldn't have known, and would have just been working away blindly. So I've been able to tweak it. with obviously the idea of improving over time. All right, thanks very much, pal. Bye.
So there we go, just a short tour of Doug's kind of growing area. Really exciting, and he's done a tremendous amount since we last saw him. The things that I particularly like are the use of leaf mould, which is fantastic. It's a great source of organic matter, just a different type, and it adds some of those complex carbon molecules, or carbon chains, that are great for stimulating and promoting fungal growth. So it'll be really nice to check in a few weeks or months' time and see how that's developing, and has it actually affected the soil conditions. The other thing which is really great that I love is that Doug has really embraced the idea of making his own compost, constructed some bins, and is producing a pretty reasonable amount of compost. And I think there's some real benefit in the long term that he'll see from that. But it's possibly an area that we could concentrate on in the future. And maybe we should do a check-in on Doug's compost. We'll do some testing in my lab, see what it looks like, and then hear a little bit more perhaps about what he is doing and what changes he can do to improve it further. So we'll leave it there for the moment. Just a quick update video. We'll check in with Doug in the next few weeks. I think he inferred himself there that he'd like to get an update soil test, so that might be a good starting point. If you've got questions that you would like me to fire over at Doug, or if you're doing similar with your own growing for your plants, your food, your vegetables and whatnot, and you have questions about your soil or things that you're doing that you'd like to get a steer on, then let me know in the comments below, or contact me on email as well. So for now, that wraps it up, and until the next video, we'll see you soon.